Hey there, gamers. So, yeah, just like the title says, Tekken 8 for a whole year. We ended up, as you can see, at around 1,700 hours, just shy of it, in fact. So, yeah, 1,700 hours. That is a lot. It's a lot of. It's a lot of Tekken, at least for me. I know there's people out there who probably played more, but for me, it's a lot of Tekken. But it's not nearly enough for how good I want to be at this game. But I'd like to share with you the the journey that I went on to figure out how to tackle my competitive anxiety and battling through self-doubt and how to have fun and enjoy the game. I'll start with an intro about myself and my history with fighting games. So, if you just want information on certain parts, there will be timestamps below. With that being said, let's get into it. Throughout my younger years, my experience with fighting games was holding fully charged smash attacks and four-player smash with my bros in high school or middle school. But what I didn't fully understand back then was that there was a competitive beast that was dwelling inside me. Every time it came down to just me and another person, my heart rate would speed up and my senses would dial in, and quite frankly, it was intense. Not having the self reflection capabilities of an adult, I didn't really know what to make of this feeling. So I just chalked it up to good old fashioned stress and didn't think twice about it until much, much later in my life. But that was my fighting game experience for a long time. I touched Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for maybe a handful of hours, really just to beat the arcade modes, but never actually got into the meat and the potatoes of what a fighting game is. So we fast forward. Years went by, and in 2013, I watched my first Evo, and man, did it awaken something in me. The intensity, the pop offs, the emotion that you could feel from the event through a screen was amazing. I was instantly hooked as a viewer, and so I started to watch more and more fighting game content until I found myself tuning into every major event that I could get my hands on. But the more I watched, the more I found myself losing the desire to play. Most of the games I found myself attracted to had been out for years already, and the thoughts of I'm so far behind, I'll never be able to catch up, it just kind of took seat in my brain. And that was basically that. I was crushed by the weight of my own self doubt, and I never ended up picking up the sticks. So another 2 years go by, and it's 2015, and Mortal Kombat 10 dropped a trailer on its release, and let me tell you, the fire was lit. A fresh new iteration on a very popular series. This is going to be it. I was going to be able to grind. I was going to be able to become number one. I was going to get on that big stage on Evo and show the world who I was and that I had what it took to be a top tier competitor, or so I thought. Uh, so the game comes out. I watched a show match between players. I don't remember the other one, but Justin Wong was fighting another player, and he showcased an amazing display of Thunder God Raiden, and that was all I needed. I was inspired. I wanted to do that. The combos and the spacing and the neutral timings. I wanted to do it all. So the game comes out. I swiped my hard-earned dollars and hit the ground running. I looked up combos. Big names in the scene were posting guides, and I watched it all. But that's all I was doing, just watching. A week had gone by. actually fought a real person. I beat the story and I dabbled in the PvE content that was available, but I didn't actually fight someone. So I brought my controller to a friend's place, and he said he hadn't really had time to practice the game, but he had a solid fighting game background. So I heard, so I head over with confidence in my heart, and boy, oh boy, I was in for a rude awakening. He didn't have combos or anything like that, but I couldn't touch the guy. My jump ins were getting shut down. I had no practical experience on how to actually start these combos that I had practiced for hours. And the whole experience was eye opening. At the time, I wasn't mature enough to admit that my expectations were just downright arrogant and not in line with reality. The more we played, the more I learned, but ultimately, I left that first PvP experience just kind of feeling defeated. I tried my hand at online matches a few days later, but everyone was so good already, even at the lowest ranks. And then those thoughts came back again. Oh, I didn't play the older games. I'm still so far behind, I'll never catch up. How will I possibly be good enough when these people have been at it for years? Once again, self doubt crushed my motivation, and I ended up putting the game down for good after just 2 weeks. Now it's 2018. Smash Ultimate comes out, and I had a blast with this game. It was nostalgic. I had a local scene that I could go to. I grinded and grinded away. This time, with having my childhood being based in this game, I felt like I actually stood a chance to do something, that I wasn't missing all this grandfathered knowledge and skill in a game that the series has been around for, almost or 10 plus years. So thousands of hours flew by, and I was actually sticking with the game. And I started to take wins against people that at first I considered to be very strong opponents, even unbeatable opponents. But my local closed down, and the closest one after that was hours away, and I didn't have the means to travel, so my only option was online. And I had some major gripes with Smash Ultimates online. Eventually, it just wore down my desire to play the game. And in 2022, with the removal of Smash from Evo, I lost all desire to play the game. Thousands on thousands of hours invested down the drain. At the time, I didn't realize it, but that is what it felt like. It felt like, once again, I had basically wasted my time into something that bared no fruit. But I was young and was focusing on the material and didn't realize all the mental things I had gained during this process. But more on that later. So I ended up finding Tekken 7, and I piddled around with it here and there, and it was pretty fun. I had a little group of friends online, and we played here now and then. I maybe got to Vindicator rank. I ended up finding Fakumram. He was a very fun character. I played him post-nerf, so I didn't get to experience strong Fakumram. But Tekken 8 got announced, and I was really excited because I really enjoyed Tekken 7. I didn't really grind it like I was grinding Smash or whatever, but the three-dimensional space, sidestepping, all the moves, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So Tekken 8's announcement really got me excited once again that there was another opportunity, another new game coming out that I could potentially get good at. So I played the CBT, and that was it. The game was sick. A little rough around some parts, but I knew from just a few matches that I thought that was it, you know? This is Tekken and this is fun. So I decided to just go with it. So let's get Tekken open. Because there are some things that I need to show. There's some things that I need that I would like some physical representation on in showing you guys. Just gonna swap over here real quick. Go. Could probably cut this out. So after, I don't know, I'll say at around 700 hours on Tekken 7, I finally found to be, Bakumram was the character that I enjoyed the most. I never really liked any of the other characters. I think I found some love with Kazuya, but Bakumram was awesome. I love that character. He was great. He was great all the way through and through. The voice line, the moves, and everything about the character I was down with. But lo and behold, I see the starting roster of Tekken 8, and I was a little bummed. Where's Bakumram? Now, Tekken 7 was my first experience of Tekken, so I didn't really have this nostalgia or love for all the OG characters. But I liked Bakumram, so I really wanted him to be in the game, so it was a bummer that he wasn't. So the game drops, and I have no idea who to play, and I'm going to start falling behind while figuring out who I want to play. Meanwhile, everyone's getting thousands and thousands of game on their main, and I'm still stuck here figuring out which character I want to play, and doesn't this all sound familiar? It was that loud, negative self-doubt. But this time, I was ready for it. I was familiar with my own patterns and habits, and I had to adapt. My thousands of hours in Smash gave me the confidence to take my time and find the characters that I love to play and still be able to go toe-to-toe with strong fighters. This is where I like to tell you and remind myself that it's okay to take time to figure out who you enjoy playing, because that's the only way you'll find sustainability in a fighting game. So don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Just keep trying new things until you find the one that sticks. So, as you can see here, I'll go under my play data. We also took our time figuring out who and what to play. We had some interesting choices at first. As you can see, I've got around 1,200 on Heihachi, 1,100 on Lydia, 2,000 wins on Yoshimitsu, and 277 on Dragunov. But as you can see, I was everywhere. I tried Fang, we tried Kazuya, Lee. I labbed Kuma a bit, but I never ended up actually playing games. Same thing with Reina. We also put a decent amount of games into her. A lot more losses than wins. So we tried out Raven and even Clive. But as you can see, we just kept trying new things. I think for the... I think for the first 2 to 3 months of the game, I went through a different character a week until I finally landed upon Yoshimitsu, a character I would never have expected myself to enjoy. I typically don't like the gimmicky, tricky characters of fighting games, but I think I realized why that is that I was taking fighting games too seriously. Well, yes, I wanted to take on the top competitors and stand out on that big Evo stage. Somewhere in that decree, I lost what it meant to play games in the first place, and that was to have fun. And fun is what I found when I started playing Yoshimitsu. So I played and played until Lydia was announced, and while playing Yoshimitsu helped me discover how to try new and sometimes silly things in a match to see what sort of new situations you can discover and what tech you can push with the character, his overall aesthetic and personality just wasn't really what I vibe with. So Lydia came out, and she looked pretty cool. I liked the aesthetic, like the rage art, her moves looked cool, the heaven and earth, all the flashing lights, you know the deal. It looked up my alley, so I tried her out. And it turns out she ended up being a pretty knowledge check heavy character, so I was kind of rewarded for investing a lot of time in her, because now when I fight one, I at least have some semblance of what is going on. But I always end up gravitating towards characters with movement options, like Yoshi's stances and spins, or even wave dashing. I experimented with some weird ideas on Lydia to see where the character could go, but at the end, I started to find that while she was fun, she wasn't exactly main-worthy. But learning from my past, even though Yoshi and Lydia wasn't exactly satisfying my taste at the deepest levels, I kept grinding. I kept playing the game, I kept getting matches in, and I was just going to hope that the next DLC character would be something that I enjoyed. And as we all know, the next DLC character was Heihachi, and Heihachi was everything that I wanted. He had movement, he was cool, his attitude is absolutely contagious, his aesthetic was spot on, and the first time I saw that rage art, oh my god, my lord, was he everything that I wanted. I was ready, and ever since he's come out, it's all I want to do. I just want to play Heihachi, that's it, end of the line. There's a lot to explore on the character. There's tech to develop. Every week I find something new about the character. And while it took me months to finally find a main, and yeah, I probably could have hit God of Destruction if I had just consolidated all of my games to one character, I wouldn't have done it on someone that I really, really enjoyed. But by the time I picked up Heihachi, because I took my time learning a bunch of characters, it was a lot easier getting into the groove of things, because I had learned a bunch of characters. At the end of the day, learning new things is a skill that is required in all things, and by just exposing yourself to the new things and continuing that self-exploration, you get better at processing new information, and you'll also get more familiar with yourself, which in gaming and in life is an invaluable thing. Conquering competitive anxiety is our next section. It's the ugly elephant in the room. It's hard to quite explain what it is, but picture this: you've just fired up a fighting game of choice, and you hit the practice mode to warm up, and then it comes time to fire up that ranked queue or even quick match, and that dreadful feeling just starts creeping up on you. Maybe your heart rate picks up a little bit, or you just suddenly start feeling nervous for no explainable reason. And you find yourself just wanting to stay in the practice room just a little longer. Just a little longer. Let me just practice this backdash just a little bit more. Oh, my waifu. It's not exactly the way that I want it. I can't. I keep getting... Fucking... Give me the electric. You know what I mean? And you practice, and you practice, and you practice, and you practice, and before you know it, your hands are tired, and you don't want to play the game anymore. So you realize what you have done. You have overtrained, and you have overprepared for something that you ultimately can never be fully prepared for. And you tell yourself that tomorrow, I'll just jump straight in, no practice. I'll just go straight in. So you do that. And next day comes around, you hop straight in, hands are cold, and you're afraid of falling into the practice mode trap again. And you start playing people. Or should I say, you play the first person. They play some character that you don't know. You get O2'd, smoked, your points are gone, and you say something along the lines of, oh, I need more practice. So you go into the replays, or you go into the practice mode, and this vicious cycle sort of perpetuates off of itself. And I went through that. I went through that a lot. I went through that so much I can't even begin to tell you. So while I can only speak for myself and the truths I have found through my self-exploration, I hope the things I'm about to share in this section can resonate with you and help you on your fighting game journey. I can't exactly where I heard this quote from, but it changed my perspective on a lot of things revolving around anxiety. And that is, anxiety is rooted in the unknown. So naturally, fighting games constantly trying to figure out the unknown. You load into a match, and while you have an idea of what the opponent's character does, you have zero idea as to how each new person will pilot them until you begin to gain information from them. Until you start to see their habits. Do they always throw out a low first interaction? Are they ducking a lot? Things like that. But initially, you've got nothing to go off of, and that is a big unknown that can cause anxiety. So, the more we expose ourselves to the unknown, the more it becomes known. And that, in turn, should lower the amount of anxiety it produces, right? Well, for me, sort of. I think exposing ourselves to the thing that we are afraid of is one way to diminish its effects on us, but it takes more to figure out why we are afraid in the first place. And for me, it was simply, I don't know if I'll ever be the best. I just don't. And that large unknown and all the things that come with it generated a huge portion of my anxiety. So by understanding what it is that causes us to feel the anxiety, we can begin to understand it. So I started, instead of having this huge, massive goal, which is to win Evo in Tekken 8. Yeah, that's a pretty big goal. That's a pretty large, stress-inducing goal to have. And so we made it smaller. We made it smaller and more digestible. While, yes, we still kept the overarching goal of win Evo in Tekken 8, my more immediate goals that I decided upon a daily or monthly or weekly basis were much more down to earth and approachable. Play 50 games, attempt this move X amount of times, use grabs, do 3 electrics in a match, even miss or block or hit, attempt a sidestep. And once I started doing this, And I was writing them down like little quests, and then I would check them off when I completed them. I started to feel this weight begin to lift off from my shoulders. And the more advanced the little goals became, the more confidence that I grew in myself. And as I completed these little goals, months went by, and then eventually I didn't really need to do them anymore, because the goals helped me understand that as long as I keep playing, I will keep improving. It might not be noticeable at times. In fact, it might seem, for the people who understand how electrics go, it might seem down to. It might seem like you never have practiced electrics a day in your life because of your misinputs, but eventually you build a trust in yourself that, yeah, we make mistakes. Yeah, we have our off days, but you are getting better. You just have to keep playing and trust that you are getting better, and repeating this kind of process in my head, you know, to trust yourself. You are getting better. Everyone has bad days. You're going to regress. It happens. But coming to terms with this and accepting it as a fact tremendously helped my mental. Now, I'll finish off this section with another realization I had a while ago. First, a little side note. I've always been fine with playing competitive games. I've played most of the mainstream team-based competitive games my whole life. League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike, you know, team games. And I've never had any issues with anxiety doing them. But in fighting games, there's no team to blame. There's no external source for losing in a fair setting. It's just simply you lost or you won. And it can be very jarring to accept and learn how to be comfortable with the feeling of loss with those parameters. No matter how much you practice, no matter how much you play, you will always experience loss. Not as in you will always lose, not you'll always experience loss, but you can never avoid losing. You can't ever be so good at a fighting game that you will never lose to anybody ever. It's not realistic. And while that seems obvious, it seems very obvious when you think about it. Duh, you're always going to lose. But I think that if you really face it and try to accept it at its deepest level, and just enjoy the competitivity of fighting games and facing strong opponents, and if that's where you're getting your satisfaction from, not the win or loss, then I do believe truly that you can beat any sort of anxiety or negative self-doubt, or just bad thoughts in general that will keep you from playing a fighting game consistently. So, for those of you who have been here the whole time, congratulations. You've made it to the last section of the video. For those of you who skipped right here, hello. How you doing? We've arrived at what I think to be the hardest thing for me to do as a gamer. And as we... Yeah, I think this is the hardest thing. I took a second there to just make sure that I considered everything when I was writing this script out. But I do think that this is the hardest thing for me personally when it comes to fighting games, is keeping a positive attitude and trying to maintain fun in frustrating situations. Also known as losing. Yeah. We're told in our lives that losing is bad. It's this inherent negative and yada yada. But if we can't figure if we can't figure out how to have fun while experiencing loss, then like roughly 50% of our time in fighting games will be negative. And I don't like those numbers, and I really don't like that idea. So what do? How do we stay positive while enjoying this giant, frustrating, immensely large knowledge check that is Tekken? Because let's be honest, getting kicked in the face a million times by Harong and not having a single idea what is happening, even after you just labbed the character for hours, it's not the most ideal version of fun, at least for me. So I think the first step in my process is to stop putting negativity on facing certain characters. Not this character. I hate this character. Sound familiar? We get into the load screen, and we see our least favorite face pop up as our opponent, and we're already having a bad time. This just is, we throw a blanket over this match that hasn't even started yet, that it's just going to be bad, and that it's just going to be unenjoyable. And I feel that this mindset is largely the reason around why I would find myself in bad moods in the past. I would already convince myself that this character is just annoying, stupid, and that would almost serve as an excuse to not try my hardest to win against it. A pre-built scapegoat, if you will. So how did I change it? Well, you practice and you practice and you think you've gotten enough practice, but you still need more. Until you understand a lot of the character, and also accept that even when you know everything, all characters have tricks and ways to mix you up that use your knowledge against you. Try to approach it differently. Try to make light and have fun with your comments against characters you find frustrating. Make yourself laugh. Talk as if there's a whole crowd of people and you're just trying to make a joke about Xiao Yu or someone. I myself have I've got some reservations about Nina, but when I see I'm matched against one, instead of saying, "Oh my god, this bug dancing around a light twitchy ass character, I can never figure out what the heck is going on. When can I press? When can I press?" You know, instead of saying things like that, psyching yourself out and convincing you that you're basically going to lose, I try to instead just make jokes like, "Man, I can't wait to put hands on this wannabe Karen with guns." It's silly, I know, but it works for me. Maybe try something different, but I think the core concept of what it is I'm trying to say is change the narrative. And you might be surprised with what it can do for your overall mental. Instead of throwing a negative over fighting this annoying character, find a way to throw a positive. And my last piece of advice is to this one I had to trick myself into. I genuinely did not think and feel the things I was saying when I first tried to do this, and that is find out how to compliment your opponents. So picture this, right? You somehow get to play against your favorite Tekken player. Maybe it's a pro, or maybe it's a content creator, maybe it's just some guy that you found his replays and you really like him. But do you picture yourself fighting him and getting hit by some advantageous moves and then being like, "Oh my god, this guy's such a scrub. All he does is spam lows. Oh my god, grab spammer, block spammer." Do you think you would say stuff like that if he was like if they were right next to you? I don't think so. And I think that is where the problem solves. Or not where the problem solves, but I think that's where the problem comes from. I think the problem comes from a lack of respect for these random people that we are being placed against. Because you wouldn't talk that way to someone you respect. You would in my situation, when I'm fighting against a training partner of mine that I genuinely like playing against them, I get excited when they do cool stuff. When they sidestep me, launch me, do a crazy heat combo, that's exciting. That to me it's impressive, and I get excited for them. And that, even though I'm getting beat up, it keeps my mental positive. So I think that if we can think of the opponents that we are fighting against, if we can think of them as like us, like if I think this person that I'm being matched against, he's just like me. He's playing the game. He's trying to improve. He might have bad matchups. He might have bad habits, but ultimately he's just another guy like me. And that is when my comments and compliments went from great electric, man, you know, as a Mishima fighting another Mishima. It's a complicated feeling to describe to somebody when the other Mishima is hitting you with more electrics. But I had to trick myself. I just had to keep trying to say positive things, even though I might not have meant them 100% genuinely in the beginning. But before I knew it, it didn't even take long. It was like 2 weeks went by, and I was genuinely being like, holy shit, like, what a great time to Power Crush. That rage art was nutty, you know? And I found myself smiling, found myself laughing and having fun. Instead of sitting here like this, trying my hardest, getting the electrics, whiff punish, frame trap, you know? The game became fun. Because no matter who I was against, it just kind of felt like I was playing with a friend. I wanted them to do just as good as me. And I feel like it really clicked for me when people would drop combos and I would actually go, oh no, instead of like being happy, excited, or being like, haha, you nerd. And that's when I couldn't put the game down. Once I found out how to do that, I couldn't put the game down. And I've been addicted ever since. And I think that didn't happen until around month 10 or 11, if I'm being very honest. So it takes time. It takes time to work on a lot of the complex negative things that we can experience while playing fighting games. But all in all, this last year with Tekken has helped me improve as a person, as a gamer, and has genuinely been a massive impact upon my life. And that is why I really wanted to make this video. I plan to keep trying to improve and to see where the limits of my skill can take me, while not placing unrealistic goals over my head. Fighting games they're a mirror to ourselves, and if we don't ignore the information that is being shown back to us when we look at it, then I think that with the right approach, we can use that to improve. And this video is a hard one to make. I've done many takes of this. I didn't know whether to edit out fumbles or mispronunciations or times when I would just linger on for too long. But yeah, this is my first time making a video like this. It's my first time really trying to, I guess, content create. So if you liked what I had to offer, please drop a like and leave a comment about something positive that has come your way by experiencing fighting games. My name is Grave, and thank you so much for your time. And game on.